Welcome, fellow confidence crusaders, neuro nerds, and success equalizers. This is your podcast, Real Confidence. I'm your host, Alyssa DeVere, and I'll be sharing a bit of basic brain science, some surprising social secrets, and a touch of tough love. Why? Because I believe confidence is everyone's fundamental right and choice. So let's get to it. I do believe that when there is a will, there's a way. Now, of course, there are always going to be situations that mitigate that. COVID, of course, made that a little hard for many people. But what I mean by that is, the world may not allow you to do something that you really want to do. But today we're going to be talking about the confidence to choose because the reality is this, my book, Confidence is a Choice. I get into the science and, of course, all the other social stuff about the fact that confidence, having confidence, being confident is something that you choose. It's at least part of the time, a conscious, and at other times it's an unconscious or subconscious decision that you make. And definitionally, the certainty at which you believe something to be true, which may then trigger other beliefs or action. So the whole book, rather heady, and as I describe it here, literally talks about how that certainty or enough certainty, as I also explain, makes us confident. And either we're confident or we're not, just like we're either pregnant or not. And I say we, maybe not all of you it applies to, certainly doesn't apply to me anymore, but it's to say, it's an absolute thing. It's absolute. You are or not in a particular decision or situation. And subsequently, this whole conversation about confidence is a choice. It is a choice, but there's a kind of almost, I guess it's a paradox, if not an irony, maybe, that you have to be confident to choose. You have to have the confidence to say, this is what I'm going to do. You have to have a will to make the way. In many circumstances, you'll hear the word agency, not just from me, but from others, that you have the agency to control your brain, to control your thoughts, not the other way around. Now, the chain really is that you, and some people might say your soul, your mind, your higher level thinking, your id, has the ability to control your brain, and your brain, therefore, controls your body. So, again, you control your brain, that then controls your decisions, thoughts, and behaviors. And that idea that your brain is not in charge, but you are, some different entity, ideology is controlling it. Now, of course, when I say ideology, could also be religion, God, whatever you believe in that does drive some of this for you. Fine, that's certainly your prerogative. But we're going to focus today on the things that we as human beings can control and whether or not we decide to or not. Now, deciding not to control something is as much of a decision, right? If you say, I really should do X. I really should get a new job, or I really should get a haircut, or I really should, I don't know, take up a new hobby or take up a new, a habit, whatever it might be. And then you don't do it. That's not a decision, right? But if you say, you know what, I should, but I really don't want to. I'm going to let myself off the hook. I'm going to give myself compassion or permission to not do that now because I really just don't have the energy. I have too many other things I want to focus on. Well, then that becomes a decision. You made a decision not to do something, and that's cool. That's confident, right? So confidence doesn't have to mean that you are, I'm going to do this, but what it means is that you have a conscious decision, a conscious choice to make those decisions, to make those rationalizations that you subsequently are certain about or certain enough about, right? All right, so enough kind of at the definitional heady level, but let's talk about why do some people have that will, make those choices, and other people don't, right? It's a fundamental question. Why are some people confident when some people are not? Now, yes, you can learn to do this. There's methodologies to do this. This is what the Institute's all about. But let's just talk about in general people who you probably know a few, I certainly do, who refuse to make a decision. They just can't make a decision. And when I say can't make a decision, it's not on everything, but in general, they have a hard time making decisions. And you could say that they're not confident. Maybe they're confident in other parts of their lives, of course, but in this particular area, they just don't want to make a decision. And so, is it because they're weak? They just, they can't do it because they're weak. They don't have the mental stamina, the mental uh, cognitive resource to do it. It's very possible, right? Especially as we get older, it may just be they don't have the energy to do it. Are they lazy? Could be, absolutely. Could they be seeking attention? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I certainly have friends, I'm sure you do too, who love to just bring up all the issues and misery and challenges and drama and things that are going on in their life because it's easier to kind of whine a little bit about it than really do something about it, of course, right? But part of the ease is that they kind of get pleasure out of sharing it and letting people know how hard their lives are, right? So they are attention seeking. Another reason, I did a podcast a while back on enablers, and these are people that just get it done and they don't really have patience for other people not getting it done. So they often just get it done. And as a result, they allow others to be off the hook. So, maybe you are married to somebody or know somebody had a parent like this that instead of waiting for you to clean your room, they just went in and did it for you. And after a while, you're like, I'm not going to clean it because they're going to take care of it, right? So enablers then really take agency away from those individuals. And subsequently, after a while, there's no will. Why should I do it? Somebody else is going to do it, right? So that's a learned dependency or a learned enablement. And that's a good reason why somebody wouldn't have a will to make a decision in that case. Why should I decide what to eat? My partner's going to decide what we want because that's the way they are. All right. Another reason, maybe they're a little defiant. They want to be like angry about it, and it's just a way of expressing that frustration that they can't make a decision. And so they're going to tell everyone about it, oh, rah, 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 I can't do this, and it's not right, it's not fair, and I can't do it, and damn the Democrats, damn the Republicans, right? Whatever it might be. So there is a frustration, a defiancy, maybe even a denial in some of that as well. But of course, you know that all of these things, they're tied to being scared. They're tied to a fear. And that fear, as we always talk about at the Institute here, is that they're afraid of failing. If I make it the wrong decision and I look stupid, or they're afraid of regretting the decision. If I make that decision and something goes really south, I'm going to regret it the rest of my life. Or if I don't make the decision, right, there's this back and forth regret. And of course, the biggie, if I make this decision the way I really want to make this decision, people are not going to like me. So if I decide not to go to the party because I really don't want to go to the party, people are going to be really mad at me, right? So frustrating on all levels, right? As I'm saying these things, you go, oh, yeah, we all suffer from them. But anyone who is really incapable, unable to make a decision at the end of the day, a lot of it usually has to do with some kind of fear. Now, how does this come out? Well, we see it in all different ways, but here are some of the most common things that tell you somebody is scared to make a decision in some way, shape, or form, just doesn't have the wherewithal to make it on their own. And you hear things like, I'm just so tired, I'm overwhelmed. I have decision fatigue, choice overload, I can't do it, right? So they lob onto some kind of syndrome, perhaps, or condition, or some other way of describing this that seems to be a permission to linger in it. And because it's so common and everyone has it, it's not my fault, right? My favorite on top of the list, of course, is imposter syndrome. Oh, I have imposter syndrome and it's holding me back. Well, yeah, it is. It's holding you back because you're letting it hold you back. And imposter syndrome is a term. It's two words. It doesn't have, a gun to your head. It's just something that somebody coined, and all of a sudden everybody has imposter syndrome, and it's okay. It's not okay. Get over it. Do something. Make a decision to get a new job, get some skills, find out if it's true, do something to get that imposter syndrome to go away, right? But people will lean on that a lot. The same thing even with mental health. Now, obviously, I'm a big proponent for having solid mental health. I wouldn't be doing this work if I didn't. But if you're going to use the excuse that I don't want to make a decision or I want to run away from this particular situation because it's not good for my mental health, I have news for you. Running away is not good for your mental health. And that issue doesn't go away just because you close your eyes. Remember like when you're really little and somebody thinks that if they close their eyes, nobody else can see them? Yeah, it doesn't work, does it? No. So, you close your eyes, you run away. You say, I can't deal with that because of my mental health. It doesn't make the decision any easier. It doesn't make it go away. In fact, it might make it worse because now you know inside your head, inside your heart, that all you did was defer the decision and subsequently kind of pussied out. I don't know how else to say it, right? All right. Well, so much for all the reasons why this happens. We certainly want to give you, I want to certainly give you some ideas, very simple things on how to rectify it. So I will be right back with some solutions. Want to level up your confidence, your career, maybe even your coaching? Well, then head over to AmericanConfidenceInstitute.com. E-classes are there as well as our coaching certification program, and you don't need any coaching experience to do it. However, if you are an experienced coach, you can get ICF and SHRM continuing credit. It's fast and easy. If you work in an organization, consider bringing in a kick-ass keynote or a uniquely engaging workshop. We also have team learning programs, and they all apply to both your personal and professional life, which makes them really special. They're great for ERGs, the leaders, the member programming, or really any type of professional learning and development in your organization. So give us a holler at www.americanconfidenceinstitute.com. Okay, so let's make an assumption that it's you or somebody else that you know that really gets stuck on making decisions, that they don't have the confidence to make choices on a regular basis. And we're not talking about a big single decision like which job should I take or should I tell my boss off or something like that. Because you know what? Here's the thing. That's a real problem. We all get confidence challenges. That's what the coaching methodology, that's what having a good thought partner helps you with. But I'm talking about somebody that maybe you've asked, where do you want to have dinner tonight? You're meeting somewhere and they can't make a decision. Or just, a general scenario, if you will, that somebody is constantly unable to make a decision. So you can kind of help coach them through it. And this includes yourself, right? You can coach yourself through that. So I hinted to one before, which is this incorrect notion that you have to be 100% certain to be confident. That doesn't exist. It's not real. It is a misnomer, if you will, that certainty and confidence is 100%, that it's absolute. It's never. There's always a margin of error. So even if you say, I'm certain that this is the right thing to do, it's perhaps not the right thing to do, but you're allowing yourself to live with that small possibility that's not right. Right? You've looked at the odds, you've looked at the circumstances, you looked at, maybe the data, if you have data associated with whatever the decision is, and you're like, you know what, I'm good enough with this decision because I'm good enough with this information and I'm going to go this way because I'm certain enough that it's the right decision. All right. So if nothing else, just remember 100% certainty is not true. It never exists. And when you are enough decided, and for all of you out there that are hungry for data, hungry for facts, hungry for justification, that whatever you're going to decide, you have the data. I have some news. You're never going to have enough data. There's always going to be data that is questionable or arguable. So here's where it gets a little bit squishy. You have to have enough information that you say to yourself, based on where I am today, based on the timeliness of this need. In other words, is it something I need to decide now because I'm going to dinner tonight? Or is it something that I need to decide in a couple of weeks and I subsequently need to get more data before then? But the reality is this, is that your gut is going to tell you when you have enough data to be certain enough. And that may be hard for some people. Again, this is part of this. You need to have confidence to choose. You need to have confidence in your gut. So first, 100% certainty doesn't exist. Second, in most cases, not all cases, but most cases, taking action is better than inertia. So doing something is almost always better than sitting there admiring, ruminating about what you should do. And the reason I say that is because you'll learn very quickly in most cases when you take action if it's right or wrong. You get feedback from yourself, how you feel, but you also get feedback from the outside world. And in that case, you can make a decision, that wasn't the right decision. I'm going to make another decision. I'm going to choose otherwise. So it gets you into that agile mindset, that ability to go forward and course correct as needed. But you can't do that if you're sitting there pontificating on, well, I really shouldn't make a decision yet. I need more data, right? So beware of that. Take a little action. Maybe it's not the big decision, the whole decision. Maybe bite off a little piece if you can. But needless to say, do something. And the last one is you fix it if it's wrong, right? And wrong is really true, right? If you pick a restaurant and you get there and you and your friend have dinner and it's not great, so what? It happens. That's life. Look up a review online if you really want to be sure beforehand. Oh, you know what, Mary? This is a really good restaurant according to all the reviews. Let's give it a try, right? But in most cases, if something you make a decision and you're like, it's not the right thing, that didn't work out so well, you course correct again. You fix it. And you go into the decision saying to yourself, if it's wrong, I will correct it. So you give yourself that padding, that insurance to say, this is not a life-threatening, life-changing moment. These everyday decisions that do not necessarily define who I am or what I'm going to accomplish, but, they're simple decisions. And subsequently, you can fix it. All right. So confidence to choose, absolutely. Having the gumption, the will to want to choose, maybe easier said than done, but I hope the conversation here is giving you, as usual, good food for thought. Thanks for tuning in. Before we totally wrap up, I want to let you know that full transcripts and show notes for this and other Real Confidence episodes can be found on www.americanconfidenceinstitute.com/podcast. I also want to remind you once again that the best way to get confidence is to give it to others, and you can do it just by liking and sharing this episode on your preferred podcast and social media channels. You can even give me some confidence by noting topics you'd like me to consider for the future. So for now, this is Alyssa DeVere. Thank you for helping to bring more confidence to the world. Master editing done by Ben Weinstein with original music performed and composed by Jeff Mitchell. Real Confidence is a production of American Confidence Institute. All rights reserved.